stinks. Stinks. Oh, stinky. Stinky. So, it's that time. What we're going to do today is we're going to learn. Y'all going to learn today. We're going to learn today. Y'all going to learn today. I'm going to teach you something. Something you should already know, but you probably don't know. And how could you know since you're part of the J establishment? We all are. We're all victims of the J establishment. It's funny how they've been called multiple things throughout history, right? They've been called the establishment, the machine, the man, you know. But because they're able to maintain that level of obfuscation, I like that word. They hide so well right out in the open, you know, because they've made it so we go, no, they said we're not allowed to talk about them, so we don't talk about them. Right? We don't think about, like, we don't see things the way we should. We should have the same honest level of scrutiny no matter what we're looking at. Whether it's your goofy Jesus, or it's your goofy Muhammad, or it's your goofy Abraham, or just any of that shit. All of those cults need to be removed and need to be, you know, outed and studied. And the thing is, like, it shouldn't make you mad. If you're a believer, you should be extremely confident that your thing is going to prevail. So you should want to engage in the conversation to help somebody understand what level they should be on. If I'm not on that level yet, and I have all these questions preventing me from reaching that level, well, you should jump all over that shit. You should jump all over that shit. You should look at it as an opportunity to not only help someone, but to earn some extra heaven points. Because all of your goofy religions, they charge you with that. You're not supposed to sit around and talk to people who already agree with what you're saying. You're supposed to find people like me and convince us to make a better decision, to make a correct decision. And it's strange how cowardly they always are. But this is an interesting one. Because this is the story of Hai Shalai. Now, I broke it down already in the previous video. And now I'm going to read you the official narrative. And I want you to hear how stupid they are. Like, look at the clown in the comments, right? I try to, but you won't. This dude doesn't address anything that's said. But he claims he addresses things that are said. Like, he's not done try to do shit but get attention. You tell me one thing, you have the attention. You tell me one thing that you've gotten on me. You tell me one thing that you tried. Can't convince you, right? You could keep hiding behind these dumb fucking sayings instead of actually, like if you know something or you're right, you double down. You have no problem doubling down. No, you said this, but you were wrong because it's this. That's what you would do if you were right. You wouldn't go, no, I already said it. I'm not going to say it again. Like Trump. I'm only going to tell the story once. Because you can't tell it twice. But like I said, this dumbass, if you really like the attention, then you would say things that now you had your opportunity. I gave you your chance. Now you go back just building my numbers. So have fun. Oh, now I had to bring up a subject. I thought you did it all the time. You do it all the time, right? Just bring up something that you know I'm wrong about, and you can convince me. You've got it. It's fucking stupid. Like, this is you just keep proving my point. Other than being some dumb J who supports pedos and genocide, I don't understand why you'd be here in the first place unless you were opposing those things. Big old crack blunt. I love how we're smoking crack blunts. Anyway. So enough of the Israeli trolls. Let's get back to it. So the guy we're talking about is this guy with the studio lights in his glasses. Okay. See the big studio lights in his glasses? Hi, Shaline. Prominent, and this is from September 14th, 2021. And this is just an example of how they flat out lie in order to push their narrative. Because people don't think that Israel, that the Jays, that the government, that any of that shit lies to us. Or you know they do, but like you don't call it out. Or I don't know, but here's a prime example of us being lied to. Prominent anti-vaxxer dies of COVID. His followers remain unwavering. One of the country's most prominent anti-vaccine advocates who promoted conspiracy theories regarding the coronavirus died at Wolfson Medical Center in Holland on Sunday of COVID-19. Anyone hoping that 57-year-old Hoy Shalong's death would prompt his supporters to rush and get vaccinated will be disappointed. Oh, no. Oh, okay. I thought it said Saudis make peace with Israel. The Saudis are the only hope that something may happen, that there's some sort of resistance. Is there's that slight little 1% chance that the Saudis aren't a part of the narrative and that they're just biding their time before they come help and they actually fight the Israeli menace. I highly doubt it, but it's what it is. On Saturday, Shalon, you got to keep up with these days, right? We got to make sure we keep up with the days. On Saturday, because remember, he died on Sunday. This says one of the most promoted conspiracy theories died at Wilson. Anyone know? Where does it say he died on Sunday? Well, he fucking died on Sunday. Saturday, Shaline posted an update for his followers on Facebook about his deteriorating condition. Remember, this is a guy, well, you guys don't know this. This is a guy who was arrested the previous he was arrested 7 days. Well, he was arrested 2 days later, taken to the hospital. Then 7 days later was a Saturday. So he was arrested on a Wednesday or Thursday. 2 days later, he was taken to the hospital with COVID. And then 8 days later, he died. So this is a guy who was a prominent anti-vaxxer. Some say the most prominent, the number one anti-vaxxer guy in all of Israel. And he had been arrested. So somehow he's now posting an update to his Facebook, even though he's still in custody. I am in very serious condition. I am not capable of speaking or responding to people. So people wondering like, okay, so if you have access to your Facebook, then you should also have access to messages and all that stuff. So you should be able to respond to any of us asking you questions, right? No. It's covered in his statement. He's not capable of speaking or responding for some reason. I have no oxygen. That has no what? I believe that I'll get through this, God willing. I expect that it will take 2 weeks, maybe 3. Keep on fighting. Claiming that the government is forcing its vaccine campaign onto the public, he called on his followers not to give up. In another post, He provided an alternative explanation for his illness, alleging that police officers had poisoned him when he was arrested at a protest. I am telling you that this is an attempt to assassinate me. And if something happens to me, know this is precisely the reality, he said in a video clip from his hospital bed. So he can respond to this part too, I guess. Following his death, supporters of Shalon have claimed that he was murdered by government authorities, and the establishment sought to silence Shalon so that he would not disclose the truth about what they claim is a fictitious pandemic and a dangerous vaccine. Again, I'm not really sure where all that is, but after investigating, look, I'm cracked out because I can read. This is the Haaretz, by the way. I don't give my sources. This is the Haaretz. The Israeli newspaper, the Haaretz, is making this conspiracy stuff up because of me, because I posed as the Haaretz and wrote the article September 21st, all those years ago, so I could, one day I could do it on here. I could be like, I'll read that article. All these years later. After investigating the matter, it turns out that this is the work of Shin Bet, which is a security agency in Israel, in cooperation with the Israeli police and officials at Wolfson Hospital. Bennett High's blood is on Bennett High's. Oh, because this is back when Naftali Bennett was the prime minister for like 20 minutes. Bennett High's blood is on your hands, and you will also be put on trial over him, one follower wrote in reference to Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Think about that. Where did this person write this? There's no Facebook page. Was this random people talking about this on their Facebook pages? And then the Haaretz found it? Like this story is so clearly manufactured, and because they think you're stupid, and they know you're stupid, you probably didn't even read it, but they know you're stupid enough not to like delve deep into it. You'll just take the narrative as it's given and run with it like you're supposed to, like you're supposed to. Hoy Shalon, a fighter for justice and truth, a leader in resisting crime, was murdered in cold blood over freedom of expression and the truth, wrote another. So, both of those statements are very plausible statements, especially knowing what we're talking about, who we're talking about, the narrative that we're given, that this guy was perfectly fine, 10 days earlier, and 10 days later he's dead. Well, yeah, 10 days after getting arrested at a no mask rally where no one else was wearing a mask and no one else came down with 8-day COVID. He somehow got 8-day COVID while in custody and then died. I mean, this is fucking silly. But opponents of Shalon's anti-vaccine camp, listen to the narrative given to the other side. Let's see if it sounds as reasonable, as plausible. Opponents of Shalon's anti-vaccine campaign called on his supporters to come to their senses following his death. I prayed that he would quickly recover and that he would survive the coronavirus, said the doctor. The doctor was praying for this guy, said Dr. Lawyer Unger, lawyer. His name is Lawyer, Lior, Lawyer, of the Sheba Medical Center, who has been battling anti-vaxxers for years. What do you mean for years? Now what are we talking about? Unger hoped that Shalon would greatly repent and bring about redemption. That sounds like the doctor you want to have, doesn't it? That sounds like a good doctor there. Lots of doctors I know are all about the prayers. Educating others of the real dangers of the virus after having suffered the illness. In anthropology, the term cognitive dissonance describes a situation in which a group's convictions clash with reality. The funniest thing is, the only reason there's such negative convictions is because you're not allowed to ask the questions that alleviate your concerns. If you ask the questions, they just go, oh, shut up. Don't ask those questions and do as you're told. Oh, never mind that. That's just a small number of people. Who cares? Like, nobody embraces people and says, oh, you're scared? Oh, okay, well, here, let me explain things to you until you aren't scared anymore. It doesn't work that way. And that's why there's so much resistance, not cognitive dissonance. It's fucking stupid. The concept was first invented. Oh, so now we're going. So this is, we're talking about this guy's death. And yet I still have no details about anything. I just have all of these random details about what one person said or another person said. And now we're talking about cognitive dissonance. And it's first fucking, this is all in this article about this one dude dying. Why aren't we talking about this dude? Why aren't we talking about his contributions? Why aren't we talking about what he was saying or anything like that? We just have this nonsense now. The concept was first investigated by Leon Festinger, an American social psychologist who in the 1950s, so prior to the 1950s, nobody thought about any sort of cognitive dissonance. Nobody thought about not believing the narrative that we're told. That's kind of strange, don't you think? It's interesting because the more I learn about history, the official narrative, the more I just have all these questions. So many of these things that they talk about like this, not being addressed or documented until the 1950s. What are you talking about? Nobody thought to recognize this shit. And then right after that, right after cognitive dissonance is sort of coined, then we have conspiracy theory shortly thereafter because of the Kennedy assassination. Interesting how there was never a word for somebody that didn't go with the narrative like that. Conspiracy theorists had to be created, and it was created in a negative tone. Anyway, in the 50s, observed that followers of a cult leader who had prophesied that the world would come to an end on a specific date, but of course were wrong. Well, again, the only reason that those people can do that is because they've already, they're capitalizing on people already falling for a cult. They're just personalizing it and making it more intimate than just this huge network of pedos that's headquartered in the Vatican, place you'll never go to. No, now you have a guy who's right in front of you, like, fuck yeah, I'm that guy. See how I convince you? I'm really charismatic and I fucking convince you of shit? It's not because you're stupid, it's because you're smart. It's amazing. In his research, Festinger showed that for the most part, people maintain their belief even after it is disproven by reality. Which is what I keep talking about, but in a different way, right? People believe the reality only because that's what they're told it is. And people do this all the time. Like when it comes to religion in general, there are people out there that believe you can't blaspheme God. And they would never say something like, God is awful. Fuck God. God isn't real. God is stupid. There is no God. God is a pedo. God is a bitch. God is a horrible, horrible idea. Whatever. It's all bad. They literally think something bad will happen to you if you say shit like that. Like that's how somebody gets to that point. That's some cognitive dissonance. But we don't look at that situation in that light. We definitely don't look at this idea that all of those other situations, at the end of the day, believe that the Jays are God's chosen people and that they should be allowed to do whatever the fuck they want to do because they're them. They should get the Semitism. They should get the favor. The policy and predisposition that shows favor to the Jays, they believe that. And we don't call that cognitive dissonance, do we? Isn't that interesting how that happens? Hey. You have been taught to believe that the bad guys in your body, like, this is so crazy. This is like if Cobra ends up killing Duke, and you're still like, you know, G.I. Joe's like, go Cobra. Like, I don't understand it. You believe that the bad guys in your Bible, which it's not Satan. Satan isn't the bad guys. The bad guys in your Bible, the ones that kill your Christian God's only son, that they are his chosen people. You guys, how the fuck you have been programmed to believe such ludicrous, like, backwards nonsense? It's just stupid. Like, the whole idea of it is stupid to begin with. You know, the idea of the God and all that, Jesus, and that's just dumb as fuck. But if you're gonna believe that shit, to then believe that's how it works out, I mean, that's just fucking stupid. How does that happen? How do you get tricked that way? Don't you, as a reasonably intelligent human being, at some point in your life, don't you think, hey, that's kind of backwards? That's kind of fucked up. Why is that happening? Why do we think why aren't the Christ worshipers God's favorite chosen people? That don't make no sense. All right. In the case of the cult, after the world continued to exist, some of the less fervent believers dropped out, but a hardcore group of followers refused to acknowledge the truth, maintaining their beliefs, and even attracted new members. So that's the end of that article. See how that works? You're more likely to remember the end of something than you are anything else. Like, you're going to remember the beginning and the end. The middle stuff, you'll get muddled, and, you know, as long as they give you a bunch of details, you'll think the other parts are more true. But the idea that this ends with comparing people that don't want to believe that one size fits all meds, you know, have no negative side effects, or, I mean, it's just not even that. Like, we have to do it, right? So we got to talk about what every single one of you believes, right? Unless you've been here for a long time and you've smartened up, you all believe the same thing. You all believe that one day patient zero is just walking down the street, minding their own business, when suddenly cold, flu, COVID, whatever it is, manifests inside them. They become patient zero. And now they somehow have symptoms. I mean, I don't know. With COVID, you could be super COVID and not have any symptoms, but we'll just say this person has symptoms. And they start walking around and they're coughing and sneezing and such. Now, there's an important thing to think about here. This is an important safety tip, right? If you cough here or sneeze here, that is completely different than if you cough or sneeze here. Right? Here, everybody's safe. Here, you are a walking fucking disease tray of COVID death, right? Here it's fine, here it's bad. You see the difference? You see how that just makes a huge difference, and you can understand why this would make a difference, right? The crowbow versus the hand. I mean, it's like night and day difference, right? Here to here is like, how could anything get from here to here? If you sneeze or cough here, it can't get down to your hand. No, you'll be fine. But person is walking, and as they cough or they sneeze or whatever, I mean, literally as they breathe, they basically have the green, it's like a light green color with little red speckles in it, but it's invisible, right? And as they walk, it's just like, just coming out of their mouth as they breathe in and out, I guess. But when they cough or sneeze, one of two things happens. One, a cloud is formed. And now, if you're in an area where there's circulated air, that sneeze can travel 60 feet, said my elderly neighbor. You could be sitting in the restaurant, eating your hash browns. You might not even notice the person sneeze across the room, but the cloud comes out of their mouth, and the air takes it around, and as you eat your hash browns, or you even just breathe, shit goes up your nose, and you get sick. Gets in your mouth, you get sick. Or the cloud, if the air is still, it'll just like sit there, just floating, waiting for somebody to come walking through it. And as they breathe, it goes up in their nose or their mouth and they get sick. Right? The other thing that you think happens is the cough on the hand. Now you have to remember, or not even remember, because nobody's ever really explained this to you. Like, you don't even understand what you believe. You believe viruses, germs, to be incredibly intelligent beings. Right? Inside your 98.6 degree, if you're normal, whatever, there's a range. Mine's 97.1, so who knows? But inside your 97 plus degree body, and if you're sick, actually, you have a fever, right? It's like 98, 99, ooh. Inside your body that's well over 90 degrees, it's not like getting sick time is the summertime when it's 90 degrees outside, right? You know, when COVID first happened, when summer came around, they had to break out the innocent black guy being killed, or the unarmed black guy being killed by police narrative. And we had George Floyd for the next couple months to keep us distracted until it got cold again. Because we believe that when it's cold outside, you catch a cold. And so once the temperature starts getting down into the 50s and the 40s and the 30s, that's when these germs that live in your 98 point something degree body can be expelled out of the body, and now they become self-replicating, like Terminators, right? Like self-replicating, meaning they just like, if you COVID on your hand, and then now you have the invisible COVID sauce on your hands, the flu sauce, whatever. As you walk around and you touch door handles, the invisible COVID sauce sticks to the door handle, and then it like self-replicates and covers the door handle. If you touch the countertop, it self-replicates and it makes a little like fort on the countertop. If you use a pen, it covers the pen. It self-replicates in your crowbow, but I guess it just stays there. It doesn't self-replicate down your arm, I guess. And of course, if you go and you know, you then touch the pen, the door handle, hey, like, share, sub, thank you. If you take 2 seconds to share it on Facebook, share it. This guy's crazy. Come telling me he's crazy. If you touch the pen, the door handle, the countertop. Now remember, it's like 40, 50 degrees. So these countertops and shit are cold. 98 degrees to 50 degrees to 40 degrees. That's a tremendous drop. But this self-replicating thing, it just holds a little fortress. And it just waits. And then when somebody else comes and says and touches it, brushes their hand against it, grabs the pen, the COVID sauce knows, and it grabs a hold of that guy's hand. And now it starts self-replicating all over that guy's hand. And as he, you know, he goes about his day, if he goes and washes his hand, of course, it goes down the drain. And it drowns, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why that works. But if he happens to like touch his nose, pick his, you know, we all pick our nose when nobody's looking, picks his nose, touches his face in any way, it now jumps from his hand onto his face and starts self-replicating, running up all in his face. The germs, the invisible germs, they're like alive. They know, they go up in your body. And hopefully you have a strong immune system. Do you guys, can anybody point to your immune system? Anyone? Tell me what your immune system is. Well, if you have a strong immune system, it's like ninjas waiting at the doorway. And as the invisible germs come in, the ninjas are like, "Wa-ta-ta-ta, wa-ta-ta-ta, wa-wa-wa-wa." And they kick the shit out of them. Now, you can give your immune system steroids, and then it's like, blah, 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 me smash. And it's like, brr. You know, because they put the thing inside you, a dead form of it, and your body learns to fight it off. So it's already ready already, is the narrative. But that's, you know, that's what you all believe. You all of you believe that without even question. You just, yep. Fucking germs, they're invisible, they're invading me. They're everywhere. I shouldn't hug my relatives. The funny thing is, if you're an adult, you've more than likely been in a relationship with someone where you've slept next to them every night. And there were plenty of nights where either you were sick or they were sick, and you slept within inches of each other. That person breathing their germs, coughing and sneezing all night, blah, blah, blah. You know, in your enclosed room, inches away from each other, your body being bombarded with these germs. You didn't get sick. If you're a pot smoker, you've absolutely smoked pot with people that were sick before, and you didn't get sick. You're like, shit, that doesn't matter. The weed kills it. It never occurs to us that maybe we're being lied to about the narrative to begin with. Like, isn't that strange? We all just accept the narrative as it's given to us. Let's look it up, shall we? Should be interesting. Let's look up just flat out germs. What the fuck? Cool. Germs. Okay. It's just pretty interesting that, well, here, I'll start. I'm just going to read you what it says. Why can't I get to it? Okay. So don't you think it's strange that before we even really get started, now I know I don't give you my sources and I'm trying to be real sneaky and shit, but let's just pretend that my sources are the same ones they are every single time, so there's consistency. And it happens to be Wikipedia, right? I put in germs, and the thing that pops up is the germ theory of disease. Don't you think that's strange? Don't you think that's strange? It absolutely is paper maker. paper maker, but that's why I use it, because I want to know the narrative that they want us to know. I don't want to use conspiracy theories. I want to know what they want us to know. I want to see how legitimate and strong the actual narrative is. Not the I'm a kid in school, so I have to regurgitate it in order to get my paycheck, my grades. As an adult who is a skeptical person to begin with, who's going to look at it from an intelligent point, giving it the same scrutiny that I give religion and any other shit I'm told, I'm just going to let the narrative tell me. You know, one of the most amazing, like, wouldn't say pieces of advice, but like, just an interview. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Dr. Judy Wood. But Dr. Judy Wood, her whole take on 9/11 is what I believe to be probably the most correct one. And Dr. Judy Wood, if she was a man, everybody would know who she is. As a matter of fact, we have a song called "A Man Would Be Famous." www.the-Bilderberg-group.com. It's also a video for it on Facebook. But the narrative is just fascinating, and she talks about direct energy weapons and how they were used on 9/11, and this is long before all the fires and shit that people are talking about now. But Dr. Judy Wood, she said, like, she has all these credentials. There's no doubt she is who she says she is. But she said that she was a forensic architect. Forensic architect. That was her job. And so what she would do is she would go to building collapses, and she said, I would never talk to anybody. I didn't want to know what other people thought. I just wanted to go to the scene and let the scene tell me what happened. I don't want anybody else's interference. I want to see what I can see, you know, from the perspective that's there. I don't want it interfered with. And that's basically the way I approach this. I want to know what they want me to know. I realize that it's a fucking calculated, manufactured narrative, no doubt. And that's the point in looking at it the way that I do. But it's also, you know, if I was sitting here looking up Alex Jones says, these clowns in the comments would have a field day, and anybody else that's maybe on the fence would have that reason to, they've been already programmed to think that if somebody starts quoting Alex Jones, they must be a kook. I don't want that easy out for people. When people ask me where I get my information from, it's like the exact same place you do. Or could, but you arrogantly don't. You just pretend like you do. Anyway. So we go with this. Which is, this is what they want us to know. When I put germs in, this is what I get. The germ theory of disease is the currently accepted scientific theory for many diseases. Does that sound fucking like that sounds, you get a bunch of assurance from that, right? That sounds like no questions there. Why is it the germ theory is the scientifically accepted theory for many diseases? Don't you realize how crazy that is? This shit's old. And yet, after all this time, we still can't definitively say that this is what it is. It states that microorganisms known as pathogens or germs can cause disease. Dude, I had no idea it was this bad. Like, I've looked up lots of different things and, you know, especially that have to do with the pokes. But I never thought, let me just look up germs. I don't know why I hadn't done it yet. Maybe I have and I'm just forgetting. Do you guys not understand how crazy this is? This is crazy. This is the official fucking narrative. Your kid goes to school and has to come home and do a report on germs. This is what the teacher's going to expect them to regurgitate. It's even written in book report form. You know, if you cite that your source was Wikipedia, your teacher's going to be like, okay, that's the accepted source. That's the source that the government monitors to make sure. And I know anyone can edit it. Sure, you can. But if you do, and within minutes the system catches the edit, and then the person that monitors that checks to see what your edit says, if your edit doesn't fit the narrative, it gets removed. It's really simple. These small organisms, which are too small to be seen without magnification. And then when you do see it, you don't like, it doesn't like, it's not like the germ goes across your viewpoint and it's like, you know. They just go, okay, you see that? And you go, yeah. I always hated looking at microscopes because I would always see the little eye floaties and I wasn't ever sure which ones I was supposed to be looking at. At the same time, it's funny. They have you convinced that telescopes are like the opposite, right? That you can see a gazillion giggity miles into space with a telescope. And you don't even think about it. But if you're go to like the tallest building in your town or near you or whatever, your tallest viewpoint, take your telescope. And when the sun is setting, look in the opposite direction. Not before it's down, where there's still light in the sky. But if your telescope is really letting you see super duper far, then you should be able to see it. It's dark. Funny thing is, if you have a telescope, like every single comedy that's ever existed that took place in New York, did a telescope accidentally see something across the street that they weren't supposed to see episode. Somebody was naked, somebody got hurt, somebody whatever. But they took their telescope and they looked across the street with it. This is the same telescope that you believe lets you see a giggity far into space. Right? That's what you believe. And at the same time, it's not like you have to make a bunch of adjustments. But if you like take it and turn it sideways and look across the street, it's basically like you take your viewpoint from here, where like, can you count my eyebrow hairs? No. How about now? Yes, right? You can count, right? That's all you're doing. You're just eliminating all of this. It's not letting you see super far. It's just clarifying and magnifying a much smaller portion that you can now see a little bit better. Understand that's not, look, I'm not like, it's not some conspiracy theory. Any one of you can just prove what I just said. Especially if you're in a building. Go to the roof when the sun is at the, like, you know, I don't know, the bottom of the sun can still be seen by you. You can still see the bottom of the sun. Look to the opposite direction. How come you can't see space? Shouldn't you be able to see way past the Earth's curvature? Again, why can I take my telescope and look across the street at my neighbor's house And if I look at like the address on the house, I'm not going to see like the different layers of paint that were used throughout the years or the brush strokes or anything. I'm just going to be able to read it a lot better. You're not seeing forever into space with your telescopes. But you keep believing it, right? Because I'm crazy. Anyway, let's go back to germ theory of disease. These small organisms, which are too small to be seen without magnification, that's why we went in that direction, invade humans. Invade. They're actually using the words I'm using. Invade humans, other animals, and other living hosts. Their growth and reproduction within their host can cause disease. Germ refers to not just a bacterium, but to any type of microorganism, such as a protist or fungi, or other pathogens that can cause disease, such as viruses, prions, or viroids. Diseases caused by pathogens are called infectious diseases. We might have to look that one up. Even when a pathogen is the principal cause of a disease, environmental and hereditary factors often influence the severity of the disease. See how they covered that? And whether a potential host individual becomes infected when exposed to the pathogen. So it has much more to do with our makeup than it does what we experience. Or so a crazy person might conclude. Again, why would anybody be mad that I'm reading what they want us to read? It's always so interesting to me how angry random people seem to get at me for trying to educate people. Really strange, huh? Pathogens are disease-carrying agents that can pass from one individual to another, both in humans and animals. Infectious diseases are caused by biological agents such as pathogenic microorganisms, viruses, bacteria, and fungi, as well as parasites. Dun, dun, dun. It's interesting how all of this life kills you, kills its host. What a weird existence. Scanning electron microscope image of cholera, the bacteria that causes cholera. And you're like, yeah, that's real. You know, there was a guy, there was a scientist. I can't remember where he's from. He was a teacher at a school. He was a professor, a science professor. And shortly after the James Webb scope was launched, he released a picture of a super magnified picture of a tiny piece of chorizo. And he was like, look at this crazy planet that the James Webb Space Telescope photographed out in the gazillion-year galaxy. You know, whatever. You know, like some crazy post about how it's this planet out in the far reaches of space. And it ends up going viral and is shared a giggity times. And he then like releases a statement like, I didn't mean for it to go so viral. This was just a lesson for people to realize, like, just because you're shown something and told something by someone in a position of power doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And look at how easily we just went with it because of my position, basically. And it's really interesting, right? Because it just shows you how quickly you are to fall in line, especially when you're told, hey, this is a piece of evidence to back up what you're saying. And the truthers do this too. There was a video that came out a long time ago that was going around, and everybody was sharing it with the title, Buzz Aldrin admits we didn't go to the moon. And it's just, it has like all these shares, and it's this interview, this little Asian girl is interviewing Buzz Aldrin and asks him, and well, that's what the narrative is. You just see the little Asian girl interviewing Buzz, that's the thumbnail, and then the caption is, Buzz admits we never went to the moon. So I'm sent this video by a few people, and I see whatever. And it's like, hey, share this, blah, blah, blah. So before I share it, like everybody else, I'm like, I wonder what this video actually says. Because you would think if Buzz Aldrin actually said this, it would be on the news. Like, there would be sort of a cover-up campaign going on where, oh, he screwed up and he said something, there would be some sort of narrative being spun had Buzz said this. So I watched the video, and the little girl asked him, we went to them 6 times prior, 1972, whatever. How come we haven't gone back? And Buzz says, you're right. How come we haven't gone back? Why didn't we go back? And then he looks at the camera and says, why didn't we go? And that's the thing that's getting spread around, him saying that they didn't go. Or, we didn't go back or something like that. But he's not saying that we never went to the moon. He's saying, why didn't we go back? And it was an example of that Sam Jackson movie, that POS 41 or whatever, Power of Suggestion 41, showing just how stupid we are. I mean, the Bible and shit shows you just how stupid people are. But a lot of people overlook that. It's just crazy to me that people carry around a Bible. It's full of highlighted passages and shit. And then you go to try to talk to them about it, and they get all stingy and shitty. And they seem to barely know it. And you're just like, wait, I thought you had this highlighted bullshit. What are you talking about? Why aren't you confident in what you believe? I mean, I guess if you're a female and you're being accurate with your 1 Timothy 2:11, saying that you should shut the fuck up, let no women teach a man, and let them learn in silence. Anyway, basic forms of germ theory were proposed by Girolamo Fracastro in 1546. I love when we hear these things. Where were they proposed? You're telling me this guy was like, he was the scientist guy in 1546, probably in some weird little village somewhere, and yet somehow his theories, his work, are involved in the historical collective from 1546. We lost the telemetry data, the room full of data that was the proof as to how we went to the moon. The actual, like, not just the story, but the actual, all the telemetry data, the measurements and the math and all that stuff, how we actually did it. We lost all that from the 60s and 70s. But fucking, basic forms of germ theory proposed by Girolamo Fracastro in 1546, we got that. And expanded upon by Marcus von Plinitz in 1762. However, just 200 years later, somebody else was like, oh, hey, I happened upon Fracastro's work in the library that exists, where, we have all these books and stuff somehow. People love to talk about the Great Library of Alexandria, right? And to me, it's just like, The Library of how did the Library of Alexandria, not only who built it, but where did all those books even come from? People seem to be like you just again you assume that making books is really easy. But how would there be a book, a library full of books, meaning all these multiple published books? Where did they come from? What publishing houses existed back in those days? How did they exist? You know, how did you publish things back in those days? I know today it's not what people think. You know, you see the thing on TV. Oh, you want to publish? Just call Christian Publishing. This, that, and the other. Well, that right there tells you you better have a pretty specific script going on. Because if your book, goes into a lot of different places, different avenues, I can't imagine ChristianPublishing.com is going to be too interested in it. And most people, you do. Most people, don't understand that, like, the manuscript that the person writes isn't the thing that you read as the consumer. This thing has gone through so many hands, so much approval by the time it gets to you. And the process is controlled by J's start to finish. Now, most publishing houses, if you come to them with the script of a century, they won't even look at it. You have to be represented. You have to have a literary agent before most publishing houses will ever even consider anything you have. Meaning, you have to hire basically a useless J. You could do that shit. You could provide people with, your manuscript and all that other shit. You could, but you're not allowed to. You have to let the J present to other J's. Which one's which?
I don't know, you didn't label it?
But so you have to first you have to get yourself a literary agent, meaning you have to shop yourself to this J and be like, please will you represent me? I'll pay you. And so you have to sign over a pretty significant percentage just to get this person to call their contacts, or basically call the same people you could call, just they can get through. So first of all, the literary agent has to approve. And if the literary agent says, hey, you know what, I like what you're doing, but you have to change the bad guy from an Israeli bad guy to an Arabic bad guy, you're probably going to do it. Especially at the point where you've already, sort of signed on and everything. They then call their friends and they have each publishing house gets some sort of exclusivity. So it's like 60 days or something, maybe 90 days, where if you shop them, they get access, they get dibs. And so the agent can't shop to multiple people at one time. They have to give each one this 60 days or whatever it is time period to decide whether they want it or not. And again, if I'm wrong, tell me the last time you read about the Israeli or J bad guy. Tell me the last time you saw one on TV. Tell me the last time you there was the story was about anything truthful that has to do with Israel. How come there's not a USS Liberty big blockbuster movie? That's a pretty incredible story, don't you think? Why don't we fucking, why isn't that in existence? There's just, like, you're not going to see the government, like, I don't know what it takes to make people believe things. To me, it just takes a narrative that I can't debunk, and I'm like, like, I went into the earth shape argument thinking I could debunk it. And when I couldn't, it was like, okay, well, makes more sense. I got to go with it. I don't want to, but I have to. And I don't, I don't know what it takes to make you do the same thing. Does it take some official representative of some sort to be like, well, yes, we have been lying about this, that, and the other, before you'll be like, hey, I think they might be lying. I don't know what else it takes. I don't know what else you need, what other histories you need. I try my best to show you what they want you to know is fucking broken. But even when I'm reading what they want us to know, the clowns come through. Oh, this is bullshit. Blah, blah. This is what you're supposed to know. I don't understand why this is so hard for you. All right. However, such views were held in disdain in Europe, where Galen's Mysama theory remained dominant among scientists and doctors. Well, I gotta know what this is. The Mysama theory, also called the Mysamic theory, of course, is an abandoned medical theory that held that diseases such as cholera, chlamydia, or the Black Death were caused by a miasma, ancient Greek for, guess what? Pollution. Ancient people were crazy thinking that diseases were caused by pollution and not invisible life forms invading you. Are we serious right now?
Just shush.
I couldn't know this would work out better for myself. I couldn't have planned this any better. A noxious form of bad air known as night air. The theory held that epidemics were caused by miasma emanating from rotten organic matter, from all the dead horses and shit. That maybe that's what was making everyone sick, is all the dead shit. And then all the bugs that come from it that bite you. They didn't realize it was the bites and all that, maybe, but
I think it was Sasquatch.
this is fucking insane. Though miasma theory is typically associated with the spread of contagious diseases, some academics in the early 19th century suggested that the theory extended to other conditions as well, e.g. one could become obese by inhaling the odor of food. So is this when they're starting to try to dumb it down? I mean, granted, the way they tell you, like, isn't smell matter?
Yes.
And so you should gain weight smelling things. And if you're smelling a bunch of food all the time, you're probably eating it. The miasma theory was advanced by Hippocrates in the 4th century BC. So from the 4th century BC, so minus 400. No. Yeah, minus 400. We don't know yet.
We don't know.
Right. Is that the minus 300s, the minus 400s, or the minus 500s?
Don't know. Just go right in the middle. 400.
400. Minus the 400s. From the 400s until... I'm not really sure. We'll figure out. But from the 400s up until modern times, thought that diseases came from pollution and from having rotten, dead organic matter and shit.
Yeah.
Like crazy people.
Right.
Until somebody came through and was like, no, they're invisible little life forms that are just flying around and, you know, invading you. You're being invaded. God damn it.
Did you think more about the lady to come and do some light cleaning? She reached out to me again.
Oh, the 4th century BC and accepted from ancient times in Europe and China. The theory was eventually abandoned by scientists and physicians after 1880.
Yeah.
For well over 2,000 years. Well over 2,000 years.
Okay. No problem, honey. I'll let her know.
In all cultures.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Well over 2,000 years in every culture from Europe to China, they all believe the same thing, that it came from pollution, until the 1880s. Dun, 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 dun. No, we don't. Think about that shit. Think about how wild that fucking is. Until the 1880s, when everything starts changing, right? You know, when all of these narratives start changing and suddenly, oh yeah, wait, we were real stupid, and you know, the basically the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, all these guys sort of take over and everything changes. This is when Hollywoodism is first is getting its starts. Replaced by the germ theory of disease, specific germs, not miasma, cause specific diseases. However, cultural beliefs about getting rid of odor made the cleanup of waste a high priority for cities. It also encouraged the construction of well-ventilated hospital facilities, schools, and other buildings. Right. Right. Like, just such a weird thing. How come did you ever hear about this? You ever hear, didn't you always just like, I mean, I just never heard of this. And I think like, I knew that germs were sort of discovered in whatever, and Mary Curie and shit like that. I knew those stories, but it was never like, well, what did they believe before that? That was never brought up. The word miasma comes from ancient Greek, and though conceptually there is no word in English that has the exact same meaning, it can be loosely translated as stain or pollution. So it's not even that. It's something more. It's closely related to pollution, but it must be it's something more. It's just, why isn't there an English word for it? Something that was believed for all the time. I mean, English was created long before this word was not being used anymore. People spoke English and believed in miasma. So nobody thought to translate this word into something else? How does that even work? I mean, I don't even like this is something that we never ever even begin to try to even understand a little bit. How is it some words have been translated and form English? Or I mean, isn't it weird to think that like a word means this in English, but what does it mean in Spanish? If it's a Greek word, how does the Greek word translate into the same thing in Spanish? And if the Spanish word probably doesn't like is loosely translated to the English, like what was how did it base? Who created all of that? What did they base it all off of? What was the if we even say it's all based off of Latin in some way, how? Who was like, okay, that means broccoli with cheese. Who decided that? Like that's fucking weird, and we just haven't.
Any word, and I show you the root. It's Greek.
We have no idea where all that shit comes from. It's just language. It's just language. And the Bible talks about
language, philosophy.
Well, the Bible talks about because of the Tower of Babel, because we were all working so well together, that the gods didn't like that and fucking broke it up. It was like, they're getting too close. We need to separate them and give them all these languages to confuse them. That the purpose was to confuse them. It was the angels, sorry. But the purpose was to confuse the people because we had been working together so well building our Tower of Babel. Christians, this is what you believe. I mean, Hebrew is the newest language on the planet. And it's basically, you hold a mirror up to Arabic and you get Hebrew. You know, backward form of Hebrew or whatever. Eliezer ben Yehuda openly acknowledges that he based Hebrew off of Arabic. So this guy creates this language that his son is said to be the first native Hebrew speaker in modern times. And this entire group of people who spoke Yiddish were like, okay, we're going to now learn this language too, because this guy says so. Nobody else was like, hey, this is Hebrew or anything. This guy says it's Hebrew. This is it. Everybody believes it. They go with it. They learn it. Now that's a whole fucking national identity that supposedly also has an ancient version of it, but nobody spoke it. How did ancient Hebrew die out to begin with? Ancient Hebrew died out, but Yiddish remained. I mean, if they were trying to get rid of why would Yiddish be allowed to remain? It's just more and more proof that the narrative is bullshit. I don't claim to know what it is, what the actual narrative is. But I can tell you what we're given is some ChatGPT bullshit. Just like this stuff. Worldwide. Miasma was considered to be a poisonous vapor or mist filled with particles from decomposed matter, miasmata, that caused illness. It's basically the same thing, except our society has made it an alive, intelligent being. The miasmatic position was that diseases were the product of environmental factors such as contaminated water, which the Jays take full advantage of, foul air, and poor hygienic conditions. I mean, this is... So not only did the people believe this, who apparently built all these magnificent structures without bathrooms, You know, I mean, like they also threw their shit outside. Like, if they thought it was based in hygienic standards, then why did they build their buildings without bathrooms and have shit running down the? It almost it adds more to the idea that the previous people had evolved beyond pooping to some degree, and you know, we found it. That's why we didn't know what to do. So there was shit just running down the streets. I mean, this is just crazy. This is so. I don't even care. I'm hoping there are people here like hearing this and maybe, you know, learning something. But this is just fantastic to me. The miasmic position was that such infection was not passed between individuals, but would affect individuals within a locale that gave rise to such vapors. Exactly. That's why we don't get sick from each other. But we can get sick from eating the same things, especially if you eat meat, which is already dead, decomposing matter. Holy shit. I know you're barely paying attention, but this is fucking amazing. This is amazing. And you could identify it by its foul smell. That just makes sense. I mean, you know, it's just fucking crazy. It was also initially believed that miasms were propagated through worms from ulcers within those affected by a plague. In the 5th or 4th century BC, Hippocrates wrote about the effects of the environs over the human diseases. Whoever, and again, this is translated from Hippocrates language, whatever they spoke, Hippocraticus knows. Whoever wishes to investigate medicine properly, this just seems so. Like, if I'm telling you this without reading you this, you call me conspiracy theorist. Right? Come on, mother.
When my chain gets here, I'm gonna make it a little longer. The chain is skinny enough.
Put your glasses on, mother.
And I got some beads, so I can make it a little longer. 2 inches too short.
It is. But then so are you.
But I love it. I love it.
Whoever wishes to investigate medicine properly should proceed thus. In the first place, to consider the seasons of the year and what effects each of them produces, for they are not all alike. You should hear this. You have to hear this. Can you just stop for a minute? This is crazy. Whoever wishes to investigate medicine properly, this is the Hippocrates, 4th or 5th century BC.
Hippocrates.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess. Okay, Hippocrates. There we go. I'm Bill and Ted. Whoever wishes to investigate medicine properly should proceed. I thought it was a people, not just a dude. Should proceed thus. In the first place, to consider the seasons of the year and what effects each of them produces, for they are not at all alike, but differ much from themselves in regard to their changes.
Yes.
Then the winds, the hot and the cold, especially such as are common in all countries, and then such as are peculiar to each location. We must also consider the quantities of the waters, or the qualities of the waters, for they differ from one another in taste and weight. So also do they differ much in their qualities. In the same manner, when one comes into a city to which he is a stranger, he ought to consider its situation, how it lies as to the winds and the rising of the sun.
Yes.
Isn't that, I mean, in the 5th century when they had all those cities, you know, those giant cities everywhere, for its influence is not the same whether it lies to the north or the south, to the rising or to the setting sun. These things one ought to consider most alternatively, and concerning the waters which the inhabitants use, whether they be marshy or soft, or hard or running from elevated and rocky situations, and then if saltish and unfit for cooking, and the ground, whether it be naked and deficient in water, or wooded and well watered, and whether it lies in the hollow, confined situation, or is elevated and cold, and the mode in which the inhabitants live, and what are their pursuits, whether they are fond of pursuits, and whether they are fond of drinking and eating to excess, and given to indolence, indolence, I don't know what that fucking word is, or are fond of exercise and labor, and not given in excess in eating and drinking.
Right. I mean, I agree with all of it.
Everything.
Everything.
Everything that this guy in the 5th century BC said.
And it's all about natural medicine. That's how we healed ourselves, and that's how we decided. Okay, so an example is where you get your lavender from. You know, if you grow your lavender, you know, here in the States, it's going to produce certain therapeutic properties, certain benefits, certain fragrance. If you go grow that same lavender from the same seed in Bulgaria, you're going to see completely different therapeutic properties and benefits and fragrance. And there's a reason for that. And this is how they determined where to grow what, where to harvest where, when, you know, all of it. It was all based on all of the surroundings that we're destroying. You know, but if you want, you know, peppermint with the most therapeutic benefits and the best fragrance and the purest, blah blah, the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, in the North America,
specifically the Northwest,
is the ultimate place to grow that.
Specifically,
you know,
specifically,
and it's all based on everything Hippocrates said.
In the fucking minus 500s.
We used to follow nature and watch the.
Well, and it was literally this way from at least. Well, I mean, he didn't fucking come up with this.
No,
he was just telling it like it was, from at least the minus 600s
until Rothschild,
until 1880s, until the Rothschilds. Yeah, I mean, what else? What do you?
Stole all of the. You guys should be furious. They stole all of this information and knowledge and generational, you know, guidance from us. They stole it.
Well, there has to have been a reset. These people, these were the people that built star forts. These were the people that built pyramids. These were the people that built castles and aqueducts and all of these things. We didn't like how did we just forget that? And something had to happen. And the fact is, the concept of mud flood, it exists. There's evidence of it. There are pictures of things that show something similar. In our building structure, we just don't take it into consideration enough. We just
well, quite honestly, because it doesn't affect people's lives today, because there's so much shit going on today and it's so hard.
But at the same time, you are given a narrative that you're supposed to believe in.
Well, people just don't care.
They do. People care all over the place. Maybe you don't. The thing that's surprising to me is somebody in your situation that believes in things like you do. Like, this is right up your alley.
And like I said, I feel very strongly about it. Nothing I could do to change the past. I could just do my best to relearn that knowledge, pass it along to my kids and everybody else that is willing to.
That's how you change it.
And take that forward. Never mind what Rothschild. I can't change what he did.
Okay, but nobody's talking about changing
But
anything.
I'm saying, like, talking about it, learning about it, to me.
Well, that's how you change minds, is by learning and then expressing the knowledge. People need to know, and it's interesting. I mean, I'd much rather.
Oh, her and the kids are moving back here.
Okay. I'd much rather do this than I would watch these bullshit shows. And at the very least, it's just exercising. It's exercising the brain and keeping sharp. And I know not everybody else wants to be the smartest guy in the room. I do. I want to be able to engage you in any sort of conversation about these things and have a leg up. I don't care. You can kiss my underwear. But like this is when I say to my mother-in-law, this, she's engaged in the, falling for the narrative that she's being told. And it's like, understand that, like, maybe it has more to do with what people believed for fucking ever, especially the people you came from. And why is this? Just like, to me, more than anything, why we don't know it, why it's not shared with us. That really says a lot. And this is how you also validate your crazy thinking. As we continue to avoid the bullshit narrative they give us, we need to that guy come here. No. Maybe. In the 1st century BC, the Roman architectural writer. Okay, just think about this. Think about this sentence I'm telling you. In the 1st century BC, the Roman architectural writer. How do we have the writings? What?
Just.
Well, this guy was going around doing architectural writing for who? In what capacity? And why do we know it? Describe the potential effects of miasma from fetid, Fetid, F-E-T-I-D.
Fetid.
Tell him to drop something.
Who?
In the driveway.
No.
All right.
Probably her Pepsi.
No.
That's.
I don't know where that's coming from. But that's...
That looks like a Pepsi bottle.
I can't hear that from all the way up here. That's what I was hearing? No way. It stopped. After it rolled over, it stopped. So I guess you're right. Wow. All right. When did you say fetid? Fetid swamplands when visiting a city. For when the morning breezes blow toward the town at sunrise, if they bring with them mist from marshes and, mingled with the mist, the poisonous breath of creatures of the marshes, to be wafted into the bodies of the inhabitants, they will make the sight unhealthy. Well, that just makes it goofy. You know, Hippocrates was talking about how the different directions of the sun. Like he wasn't talking about creatures and their breath. The miasmic theory of disease remained popular in the Middle Ages, and a sense of effuvia, effuvia. What are you barking at? Jim Crow. Can we name a dog Jim Crow?
No.
That'd be funny. Contributed to Robert Boyle's. Okay, so effluvia, 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 contributed to Robert Boyle's suspicions about the hidden realities of the air. Now we just go in the 1850s. That's a pretty significant jump. Miasma was used to explain the spread of cholera in London and in Paris, partly justifying Haussmann's later renovation of the French capital, which is all blue. The disease was said to be preventable by cleansing and scorning of the body and items. By cleaning up your shit. What a fucking concept. Dr. William Farr, the assistant commissioner for the 1851 London census, was an important supporter of the miasm theory. He believed that cholera was transmitted by air and that there was a deadly concentration of miasmata near the River Thames banks, which was like super fucking polluted and still kind of is, I think. Such a belief was in part accepted because of the general lack of air quality in urbanized areas. Again, so it's interesting how we jump to the 1850s, right? Because this is now after the time when people believe the reset happened. And this is maybe about 50 years later. So about 50 years after we started sort of repopulating, we didn't know what to do with all the waste and all that shit. And after about 50 years, it created a fucking cholera epidemic because all we've been doing is dropping our shit in the water and probably drinking it. I mean,
and what? It's disappeared over years? It's just gone? It's not still there? Come on.
It's pretty wet.
Oh, yeah.
And flowy. I mean, I guess eventually it flows out into the ocean, right?
Oh, and the ocean is just endless water that's not... Come on.
Well, no.
There is poop particles.
No, everything flows into the ocean so that...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it from... That makes sense. All the rivers and shit like that flow into the ocean so that the water can get cleaned. Then it rains. Fills the shit. I don't fucking know. It's silly. But I look at it from an architectural standpoint. If I was building this thing that the people lived in, what would I do? That would be a thing. That all the rivers eventually run into that. They have to run into something because for a long time the people are going to be stupid enough to, put their waste into the water. So you got to do something. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you guys realize, all we do, especially if you drink from the tap, we brush our teeth, we drink, we shower in, we cook with water that we've all pissed and shit in a gazillion times. It's a loop. It goes, comes out of the fucking faucet and If it doesn't get caught by whatever you're doing, it goes back down the faucet and then through the thing. If you end up cooking with it or whatever, you eat it. You drink it. You do whatever. You when you're done, you pour it down the drain, or again, you've cooked with it, so it's made your sauce or something. So you eat it, and then you piss and you shit, and that goes down like the same. If you go and you look at the toilet pipes and all that shit, they all go to the base. Well, the toilet pipe goes to a different place, but the one that fills it is different than the other one. Are they all different? Actually, I don't think they're different. I think it all just goes into the same pipes. But it all does, and it just gets looped around, and looped around, and looped around, and I'm eating, drinking, brushing my teeth with, shitting, I'm doing that with all of my neighbors' piss and shit. It's just been cleaned out. Don't worry. They get like there's only so many parts per million that the water's allowed to have in it. So as long as it has under so many
acceptable level,
right? As long as it has
acceptable by whom?
As long as it has only a certain amount of parts per million worth of
poop,
people's shit and piss and puke and
pharmaceuticals,
blood and
hormones and
oh yeah, people flushing drugs and shit down all that.
Acceptable levels.
They clean it. They clean it out. They got some filters. Makes you wonder if maybe it has something to do with why people get so sick. I know here in Redford, Michigan, I think there is something really wrong with the water supply. Because from what I can tell, there's something killing dogs in these neighborhoods. Something killing animals in these neighborhoods. And when these animals die, it's because they're riddled with fucking tumors. Especially dogs, though. The protecting ones. Not the cats as much, because they're fucking useless. But the things that can protect, they seem to get riddled with fucking crazy tumors all in their stomachs and all that. And when those tumors rupture, they die very painfully. And they die, takes about 8 to 10 years. If you're lucky, you get 10 years. But I could think of like at least 5 dogs, more like probably 10 dogs, of people I know in this area that fucking, that this is how it is. Their dogs have died from it. Their dogs have died from the same thing. It's not like these dogs are dying from all these different variations. It's all the same thing. Riddled with tumors on the inside. Something wrong with that. All right, let's see. Oh, Jesus. I don't think I can do anymore. I'll finish this. Such a belief was in part accepted because of the lack of air quality. The wide acceptance of miasma theory during the cholera outbreaks was overshadowed. The cholera outbreaks overshadowed the partially correct theory brought forth by John Snow that cholera was spread through water. Well, I mean, it's still the same thing, though, right? It's just a different variation of it. This slowed the response to major outbreaks in the Soho district of London and other areas. The Crimean War, because, Crimea has been in the situation forever, along with Kiev, for some strange reason. The Crimean War nurse, Florence Nightingale, 1820 to 1910. Isn't it amazing how so many of those people from back in the day lived to be like 90, 100 years old and shit?
The lifespans were only 30, 40 years old.
Right. 80, 90. Isn't that weird? They didn't have showers.
To be in her 90s.
Right. But like all these 1800s people, they didn't have all the modern day conveniences and medicines and, And you just don't
It's
hear about.
Rothschild.
Well,
That's who
the other
fucking
thing
did
is,
that.
when you hear about people that died back then, it's because they died of either they got shot or they died of like something traumatic, or like they might have had like yellow fever or something. But
Polio
right, you
or
never hear about
smallpox.
somebody that, especially by now it counts, died of cancer or AIDS, or you don't hear about anything like that. Like all these things that seemingly affect so many people nowadays in this advanced version of society that we live in. I mean, just the obesity alone is just clearly obesity is your body rejecting whatever you're doing. You're swollen. Like if you were in any other, if you were skinny and then you woke up one day and looked like you do, you'd be like, oh my God, I must have eaten something or gotten sick because I'm all swollen.
Or you just had too much salt.
No, I'm saying if you woke up one day and you were obese,
Oh.
because that's your body is rejecting it. Your body is like, what the fuck? Now you're all swollen and sick. You can't breathe. Your shit's not functioning. Like, think about it. You're clearly sick. Did you see how many fucking fat cheerleaders there were during the Super Bowl show? Because black guys like fat chicks. Because that makes you like, you're black when you like your chick to be fat, not a shape. Why is that? Why is that a thing? Why are black guys like butts, 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 butts? That's where the poop comes from. Like, what? Why did butts become the shit? Butts. Hear what I said? I said butts became the shit. Oh man, butts became the shit. Butts became the shit. What? Butts became the shit. How'd that happen? Butts became the shit. Butts became the shit. Oh, anyway. Let's see. Florence Nightingale was a proponent of the theory and worked to make hospitals sanitary and fresh smelling. It was stated in Notes on Nursing from the Laboring Class, 1860, that Nightingale would keep the air the patient breathed as pure as the external air. Boy, that sounds crazy. Right? Doesn't it sound crazy? Fear of miasma registered in many early 19th century warnings concerning what was termed unhealthy fog. The presence of fog was thought to strongly indicate the presence of miasma. The miasmas were thought to behave like smoke or mist, blown with air currents, wafted by winds. It was thought that miasma did not simply travel on air, but changed the air through which it propagated. The atmosphere was infected by miasma, and diseased people were. The air was as infected as the people were. That's interesting. Anyway, I'm not gonna do any more because I'm fucking tired. But go get your free download www.the-bilderberg Link will be in the description as well as the link to Hollywoodism, which you need to go watch. And because that's literally the most important thing you can watch. I can't stress enough how much you should watch Hollywoodism. Um, that being said, go get your free download and go to the Facebook page There will be a song in the face underneath the link for Hollywoodism. There's a link to one of our Facebook videos, so go check that out. Share it with your mama, because I think she'll like it too. Literally, I think your mom will like it. Have yourself a wonderful day, and as always, from the bottom of my heart, like I mean this more than most of the things I say, pedophiles, kill yourself.